新人賞の候補、すごいことなのに、ようやくここまで来たのに、なんで嬉しくないんだろう。もう夢じゃなくなっちゃったのかな。ゼロアリーナ。ゼロ、あなたもそうだったの？歌うことが夢じゃなくなっちゃった。天にリク。
A legendary idol, someone who has risen above the public's eye, the perfect idol. Yet, his career ends suddenly, vanishing for 15 years. Despite this, his influence is strong among the idol sphere, inspiring new idols to strive to be the best idols they could be. This figure, Zero, remains a dominant background figure in the anime IDOLiSH7, a male-centered idol anime that focuses on 4 different groups. The titular new popular group in the industry, IDOLiSH7, the top idol group Trigger, the veterans Rivale, and the disruptive newcomer Zool. I have been interested in this anime as someone The anime is adapted from the gacha game with the same name, written by Bunta Tsushimi. The anime was directed by Makoto Beshol and led in production by Sokichi Shimoka, who during an interview stated that their goal was to convey the courage to move on with your life, the difficulties of being oneself, and the trust you have in others. These themes are framed in a particularly compelling way as they explore a professional, perfectionist environment, instead of being one within a youthful, station-driven narrative scene. The series frames itself through the perspective of Tsumugi Takanashi, a newcomer to the idol industry and a point of entry for the audience as well. Through her, viewers are able to be introduced to characters like Zero and see firsthand the struggles of the idols as she helps produce IDOLiSH7. As IDOLiSH7 and Trigger climb the charts to become the fan favorite idol group, perfectionism is persistent, presenting itself in different forms that shape how the idols understand themselves and their success. As of Season 3, IDOLiSH7 and Trigger have managed to establish themselves as pillars within the idol industry through their hard work. With the introduction of the disruptor Zool, however, the series introduces a different form of perfectionism. By framing perfectionism as both an inspiration and a potential danger, IDOLiSH7 reveals how the idol industry rewards the suffering and self-denial of the idols under the disguise of authenticity. Through comparing IDOLiSH7, Trigger, and Zool, they show that the perfectionism has value when it allows idols to remain human, as it would otherwise become a form of self-destruction. The idol industry, both in real life and fiction, is often described as toxic, abusive, and fake. This reputation stems not from the idols themselves, but the industry who demands a perfect way to capture the hearts of the masses. In her research, Female Desires to Fantasize and Consume Male Idol Images, Kazumi Nagaike explains that male idols in particular are constructed to be objects of desire by suppressing overtly masculine traits, idealizing being androgynous. Along with that, they encourage parasocial attachments that blur the line between authenticity and performance. Similarly, Patrick Galbraith in Idols, The Image of Desire and Capitalism, states that idols provide emotional healing, inspiration, and have a sense of watching their growth as an audience. While idols are not intentionally manipulating their fans, the industry is structured to demand an artificial form of emotional awareness to attract and sustain attention. IDOLiSH7 approaches this with the rivalry between two contrasting centers, Trigger's Ten, the angel, and IDOLiSH7's Riku, the monster. Ten embodies the perfectly polished ideal, following points from both Nagaike and Galbraith, carefully constructed, androgynous in design, and attentive to meet fan expectations. Riku, on the other hand, becomes the new idealized perfect, through his visible vulnerability and patheticness. This scene is particularly dark contrary to the upbeat vibe of the rest of the anime, leaving Iori and Tsumugi's faces to be only visible half the time. When the full truth of where Miku's monster is revealed, Tsumugi is faced with the full truth alongside the audience to demonstrate the true power of how the industry operates. It was in their faces all along, even with their debut song being titled Monster Generation. While this is Riku's true self, the public's overtly supportive response reveals that the industry secretly demands a different type of perfection, one where the idols must suffer to perfection rather than be flawlessly perfect. But if the populace demands perfection where the idols must suffer, it is inevitable that an idol's goals and the industry's expectations will not align. What happens when that divide happens? David Foster Wallace explored this in his short novel, Gold Old Neon, where the narrator expresses a need to appear exceptional, sincere, and worthy of praise. In order to pursue this perfection, he built a false self. However, it was his own perfectionism that became self-consuming and erased his authentic interior identity. By the end, he commits suicide as no one truly sees him for who he is and believes that there is no world where his true desires will align with how others may view him. Obviously, nobody wants it to come to that, and neither does Zool. Instead of internalizing this destruction of perfection, they externalize it and reject the idol industry for failing to accept them. As a result, they seek to build a new perfect version, according to their own terms. However, through doing this, they go into criminal territory, kidnapping and starting dating scandals with Trigger, blackmail IDOLiSH7, and attempting murder against Rivale.
まずは見せしめを決めよう。物騒だな。僕に逆らったらこうなるというサンプルだよ。みんな一気に戦意を失うように最初に英雄を脅すんだ。やるならブーム中の彼らがふさわしいけれど、アイドリッシュ7はまだ若い。リバーレかトリガーだ。君たちの生贄はどっちがいい？トリガー。
リバーレです。人望が厚い人物は早めに退場していただいた方がいい。
俺はどっちでも。はるか、お前の票で決めろよ。
決まってる。トリガーだ。
パンパカパーン！決まりだね。生贄はトリガーだ。
こいつらを騙して浮かれさせて首ったけにしてやる。俺たちは最高のドラッグ。トリップさせてやるよ。
When they convene to discuss who to destroy, they're seen as choppy, almost symbolizing how out of sync they truly are as a group. Through utilizing Bubun, the anime shows their faces through their determined emotions. Yet, the exaggerations on Real's face are even more apparent in showing how this is a point of no return. This is reinforced in the second scene, where before the insert, the center Haruka stands at a television that focuses on the crowd. Although he occupies the center and the focal point of where it should be pointed at him, the composition makes him appear small and isolated. No matter how much attention he has, forcing the crowds will not make him achieve his goals. In their insert song, Poisonous Gangster, they are simultaneously dissing the other groups and the very audience they are hoping to captivate in order to make them popular. Their contradictory lyrics and relatively low-effort animation emphasizes how hollow their rebellion is. In both situations, perfection stops being a motivating force and instead becomes a pitfall, demanding a sacrifice that is not worth the end result.
願いを届けたとえ遠くても揺るぎない夢があるから希望があれば痛みも超えられ
しか出てないじゃん。
やっぱスキャンダルのせいだよな。
頑張ってツナシさん。リバーレも叩かれまくったことあるよ。頑張れ。3人で出られなくて一番悔しいのはトリガーだって知ってるから。誰に何言われたってライブで感動した自分を信じてるから頑張って。
願いを届け引き寄せればいいさ。ぼんやりじゃなくはっきり見えるその映像を胸に焼き付けて進むべき道を選べちゃえよ雑誌。ガク、俺たちはいつでもニコニコしてるような仲良しじゃなかった。それでも絆を忘れたことはなかったよ。二人の熱い思いはいつも伝わっていたから。今度は俺が伝えるよ。トリガーを、歌を大切にする気持ちを。
Become who you are. Niche writes this at the beginning of the Gay Science, arguing that selfhood is not something to be discovered, but something that is created by the person. In order to become oneself, it requires to shape one's values, understand one's drive and limitations, and the resistance against the pressure to conform. Perfection is not leaving out the imperfections, but rather integrating it inwards. He proposes that instead of a flawless identity for public approval, it should be a self-formed from the lived experience that would truly be perfect. Despite being cancelled and targeted during the scandal, Ryunosuke still chooses to trust in his experiences, his bonds, and the faith in his fans that he will succeed even though the rest of Trigger is still being kidnapped. Before this, he was the one character with little focus, with one of his main running gags being that he is the eye candy for Trigger as the sexiest idol. Zool utilized this and ruined his reputation in one picture, a dating scandal that breaks the inherent trust between fan and idol that was placed by the industry and breaks his form of sexuality. Despite all that, he chooses to stand in front of the audience who hates him an act of defiance and an acceptance of perfecting himself. By replacing the ending credits, normally sung by Zool, it is an act of resistance against both those who act as if their own perfection is the Bible and the industry who wants to reject those who don't fit in the mold. The use of unmixed, raw vocals adds to the grittiness of the scene, with the acapella at the beginning being his vulnerability and sincerity. The lyrics mirror this, there being no deepest point of despair and how even at the bottom of the ocean he will continue to shine through with these straightforward emotions. In contrast to Zool, Ryunosuke embodies an alternative ideal of an idol, one who still plays into the expectations of the industry but does not fold, being true to his own perfect authentic self. At the heart of IDOLiSH7 is not one argument about the idol industry or perfectionism, but rather a crossover rotation of values that can coexist and can still conflict with one another. As Shimoka stated, the goal of the series was to communicate the courage to move on in life, the difficulties in finding oneself, and finding trust in one another. Through how the characters challenge the idol industry, whether through challenging it or utilizing it for their own advantages, the anime presents a path forward. The path may not have perfection as something attainable, but with the struggles, relationships, and self-acceptance, it helps shape a new perfect, and in turn making IDOLiSH7 a perfect medium to share this sentiment.
気づいて初めましてハートで繋いでく恋やっと会えた声に祝祭7万票見つけた運命の音を聞こう何したって君の細胞にはなれないけれどだからこそか思い届くのは初めま